Good morning, everyone. It's New Jersey Garden. This week I'll be doing a bunch of planting. It's mid-May, and by the end of the week we'll have really warm temperatures. We've had some really cool temperatures. We had a frost on Friday, early Saturday morning, and we had a little bit of snow yesterday, which didn't amount to much, but it was a really unusual situation to have snow in May. So we just had a really cold day yesterday, but today is going to reach about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll be in the garden today. I wanted to show you what's blooming in this little tiny side garden here that we have under our deck. We have some peonies in the back that will bloom probably in about 3 weeks. Three different varieties of peonies. And then here in front we have basket of gold alyssum, which is a perennial, and it really likes to be close to this paved walkway here. I had planted it further into the bed and it gradually moved its way to the outside. It's a beautiful perennial alyssum. It has a really different look than the annual alyssum. It has a woody, you can't really see right now, but it almost has like a woody stem to it. And this is the same bed where I planted all those violas. I planted 18 violas a couple of weeks ago, and they're looking good. The violas are looking good. They're putting on some new growth, and I do have some little seedlings in here of cornflower from prior years. So the basket of gold alyssum is just so bright and cheery. It's a really vivid yellow. It doesn't seem to attract any pests, and I just enjoy how bright it is in the spring. And then we have this Perennial Phlox right here. It's a nice magenta color. I've seen this in other shades of pink and purple. Makes a nice ground cover. And then over here is a Perennial Poppy that's beautiful. And I think next year I'm going to plant some more poppies. This is Princess Victoria Louise. I have a lot of these growing in another garden bed, and I'll show you that next month when they bloom. But poppies grow really well in my garden. Last year I grew Shirley poppies, which are annuals, but this is a perennial. So I'll just back up and show you what this little garden bed looks like. It's just tucked away under our deck. And what I'm planning on doing is putting the Canterbury bells in here. Canterbury bells are a biennial, so I don't expect them to bloom this year. But I'm hoping they go okay with the cornflower and the violas. I'm excited for the violas to bloom in here. And I will be showing you the peonies in about 3 weeks when those bloom. I have some lavender growing in these seed trays, so I'm going to be transplanting those into larger containers. There's a little bit of Canterbury bell in here mixed in. And then this is the lobelia, which is an annual, and it started getting some mold. I guess the basement conditions were too cold and damp. So I had sprinkled some cinnamon the last time this happened, and it stopped the damping off that was going on, and I think it came, the damping off situation came back, and I started losing some more seedlings. So rather than just sprinkling more cinnamon, I'm going to take these out of the seed tray. They're really ready to transplant anyway, and I'm just going to transplant them, but I will be keeping them inside for another week or two, because our nighttime temperatures are still not warm enough for my annuals to be planted outside. And the warm temperatures are coming at the end of the week, but we've just had a cool spring, and in general I wait until the nights are in the 50s to put my annuals out in the garden. I'm also going to be planting some cornflower into pots today, and this is a cute little seed packet I got years ago from a seed exchange I went to. This was drawn by a Girl Scout, And these are just cornflowers that I had planted years ago in the front garden bed, or side garden bed rather, and they kept producing seeds for me every year. I never had to replant them, and then the last couple years the cornflowers just died out on me, so I just wanted to replant some cornflower, and I did try to plant some directly a couple weeks ago, but nothing has popped up yet. So I'm going to plant some of these seeds into containers that might fare a little better. And I think the seeds I have here are collected from the original flowers from a few years ago, so they're pretty old seeds. So I'm going to be seeding these really heavily because I don't know what the germination rate is going to be, so I'll be doing that today as well. This is another seed tray full of lobelia, and this is what it's supposed to look like, really healthy, as opposed to this tray over here. So I'm going to be transplanting all the lobelia, like I said, and then over here is some blanket flower that's ready to plant right into the garden today. It's getting up into the 60s, and although the night temperatures are cool, this is a perennial and it can handle colder nighttime temperatures. And I have some more blanket flower right over here. And these have been sitting in the seed trays since February 28th, so quite a long time in the seed trays. But they're ready to transplant out. As you can tell, these roots are really getting wound around her. So I'm going to loosen up this root ball right here just a little bit before I plant it into the ground. And here are some lupins that I have planted from seed into these little cups, yogurt containers. And they're doing okay. They've been really needing a lot of water. I've been watering them quite frequently. And the issue I have with the lupins is if I don't get them into the ground pretty soon, they may not bloom, and then they won't set seed for next year. I have had lupin grow successfully before, and I've had you know, years where it's died out when it gets too hot, and then it won't before it even has time to set seed. So the temperatures really have to be right for the lupin to grow well here in this part of New Jersey. So they're not ready to transplant out yet. I'm going to wait a week or two. They're very delicate, and I'm going to just give them some sun exposure today. I just transplanted 4 lavender plants into these yogurt cups, and I'll probably wait another 3 or 4 weeks before I plant them out into the garden. Lavender is great because it is deer resistant, and I have one big lavender plant in the yard right now. I had one other one that died last year, so I wanted to replace that lost lavender, and it smells very fragrant, and it actually blooms twice for me in my garden. Because of the frost and snow that we had yesterday, we just had a little dusting of snow, but we had frost and it killed off the apple blossoms. So these are the 4 apple trees we have in the front yard, and the blossoms were looking nice, and I think I may have a short clip to show you if I can find one of what they look like, and I will also link above to last year's video showing you the apple blossoms. They're really nice. They don't last very long, even without a frost. They only last about 10 days. And I do like the apple trees. They do produce apples, but they're a little we don't treat them, so they get a little wormy, and we use them for applesauce. And then for some reason these apple trees will shed all their leaves in August. They just drop all their leaves in August, and I've never figured out why they lose their leaves so early. But we don't treat them, and I don't know what kind of variety of apple trees these are, but this is the front yard of our property. And as you can see in the distance, that's the front garden bed. All that curvature there is all flowers. Another project I'm doing is I'm trying to edge some of the garden beds. This is the front garden bed right near the garage right now. And I've had a lot of grass creeping in over the years into the garden beds. I haven't edged probably since I started this garden bed a few years ago. I started the garden bed using landscape fabric because I just wanted a really big garden and I wanted to suppress the weeds really quickly. You can use cardboard instead of landscape fabric. It's probably a lot easier just to use cardboard and then put leaf mulch or compost on top and just have it have your grass decomposing under the cardboard. But I use landscape fabric, and it can be tough, especially when you're edging or if you're putting in plants, because you have to cut through the landscape fabric. But over here there's no landscape fabric, and I did have a lot of grass coming through into the bed, so I've been just doing a little edging, and I use this curved edger, and it's not the greatest. I've seen other videos. For example, my friend Susie from Suffolk Susie uses a straight edged shovel, and that works a lot better, and I'll link her I'll put a link to her video below because she did a really good job showing how she edges. So I'm really not the best edger, but I'm doing a lot of edging today. I'm going to finish edging this whole area here. So I just use this edger, and then I also use this tool that I also use for deep weeds like grass weeds to kind of like pull up the, once I make the cuts using the edger, I just use this to pull it up. And then I'm using a wheelbarrow to dump it into the woods. So I'm going to work on that for a little bit and see how far I can get. So I spent about an hour just edging this garden bed, and the line isn't totally straight, but it looks much better than it did. And what I'm going to do is pull this thick layer. I'm going to take the sod off and throw that in the woods, and then I'm going to just drag some of this mulch down into this ditch here. I have a lot of mulch that we laid down last fall, so there's enough mulch to cover this area. I'm doing a bit of weeding today in this front garden bed that you can see is right in front of our house, and I'll do a garden tour in the next couple of weeks. I don't have a lot in bloom yet, but there's a couple shrubs that have popped up. These started out as really tiny trees, seedlings, and I left them alone, and I need to move this one, and I think it's a red cedar, but I'm not sure. If anyone knows what this is, please let me know. I'm worried it's going to get really tall, and it's right underneath this dogwood tree, so I do need to move it. And it grew really fast in the last couple of years. There's another one that I moved over to the left of the mailbox, and I think I want to move that one as well, perhaps to the backyard. But if anyone knows what these trees are, I would love to know. I filmed 3 Baltimore Orioles in this apple tree last week, so I'll insert a clip of that now. And I just love Baltimore Orioles because I only see them once or twice every spring, and I always see them on like the sunniest, warmest day in early spring. And it's interesting, I never see them when it's windy out. It's always like a really still day, and they're always in these apple trees when I see them. So I did read that Baltimore Orioles like to be really high up in the canopy, so perhaps they are around all summer and they're just really high up, but in the spring they like these apple trees, and I saw them here the other day. So I'll insert a clip of that now.
Here's some tape, Mama.